Captain Paul here for the Locker Room. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Let's get right into the video. So Patrick Kane, what are his trade destinations? There's been reports that he's hesitant to move his no movement clause, and that could make things very interesting. He will not want to go to a very bad team. He's already in a situation where the team's not competitive. I'm not really seeing him want to endure that somewhere else. So how is Patrick Kane doing statistically this season? In 45 games played, 9 goals, 25 assists for 34 points. While not up to his absurd standards, that's still a pretty solid productive year considering the roster around him. Mind you, last year in 78 games played, he had 26 goals, 66 assists for 92 points. He definitely still has his talent and his amazing playmaking ability, so let's not just say he's washed yet. What trade destinations would make sense? Well, I have a few teams here that could make some sense. This has been a team that has been rumored to be involved in trade talks regarding Patrick Kane, the New York Rangers. This would be an amazing fit for the Rangers. This would give them a nice boost offensively. I could easily see him slotting in on the first line with Panarin and Zibanejad. That could be absolutely filthy. The problem is that they do not have much cap space available, even if Chicago eats half of Kane's salary. They have $1.539 million left in space, and really the only big guy that comes off the books next year would be Sammy Blais, and they also have some notable RFAs this season that they're going to want to retain. So I don't think getting Patrick Kane here would be for a long-term fix. This would just be a pure rental, and they would probably have to move a contract to have it make sense. I'm just not sure where they could make the space available. The next team that people have talked about, and let's just stay in the same state, is the New York Islanders. They just made a big deal getting Bo Horvat. They only have $2.583 million in cap space available, but looking at it, just from a pure fit standpoint, this would definitely take them from being one of the worst offensive teams in the league to being average to above average. When you add Bo Horvat and Patrick Kane within the same trade deadline, I mean, that's a big boost offensively. The problem is when you have guys like Anders Lee making $7 million, Josh Bailey making $5 million, Pageau making $5 million as well, you do not have much cap space to play with. So just like with the Rangers, I don't think cap would work even if they somehow do retain $5 million. Unless they do kind of send back a guy like Anders Lee, Josh Bailey, or Pageau. But if the Blackhawks take that trade, I'm assuming the Islanders will have to throw over a draft pick or two to have it make sense on their end. Let's get into the team that is a favorite of mine, the Boston Bruins. They have also been rumored to be in the Patrick Kane sweepstakes, but they have no cap space. They have $33,000 left in cap space. So for them to have this deal make sense, they would have to ship someone out and have the Blackhawks retain half of the salary. Now, a notable guy that you could easily just have moved out would be Craig Smith. He's making $3.1 million. Maybe you could package a guy like Zorbril in that deal with a draft pick to get Kane. But just looking at it honestly, I'm not sure this makes much sense. The Bruins are definitely in a buy now situation, but they should not make trades to rob themselves of prospects. They are in the ideal situation to buy for a rental, but if you sell too much of your team, you could mess up the chemistry. Guys that I would consider moving in a deal would be Nick Foligno and Craig Smith, and Foligno has had a resurgence this year. But if you move those two, you could make a deal happen, but Foligno's got a no trade clause, and you would definitely have to throw a prospect and a draft pick to entice the Chicago Blackhawks to give up Kane. And the move would be a pure rental. There's no way you're going to be able to retain Kane. Let's get into the last team I want to have a conversation regarding. This would be the Buffalo Sabres, and they have the cap space. They have $18 million in cap space available. They are an up-and-coming team. Patrick Kane is from the area. So this is one of the teams out of all of them that could retain all of his salary and not worry after giving up a couple pieces to have Chicago retain any of it. You have Jeff Skinner, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch doing fantastic. But just imagine, you have a line of JJ, Dylan Cousins, and Patrick Kane as your second line. One of the best offensive teams in the NHL would just get so ridiculously deeper. They have a lot of promising prospects in their system that could entice Chicago to pull the trigger because Chicago is kind of looking thin in that area. And if Chicago wanted an NHL player now, you could trade a guy like Opozo and a prospect or two to make the deal at least fair. And the one benefit of him going to Buffalo, like I said, this is one of the few teams that could retain him, just from a cap standpoint alone. I'm not sure what Patrick Kane is going to want for a contract. He is not that far removed from having a 90-point season, but the feeling is he is kind of done with being in a situation where they're not winning. And joining a young and up-and-coming Buffalo team with a superstar like Tage Thompson being that final piece to bring them over the hump, kind of like a Marion Hossa type player later in his career, that could be very enticing for Kane. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you think Patrick Kane's going to get moved? And if so, where to? I'm Paul from Locker Room. We're trying to reach 2,000 subscribers for the end of the month. I'll see you in the next one.